Hello and welcome to the second demonstration in the series I'm doing on NetApp, especially using NetApp simulators in your lab environment. So in the last demonstration, I touched on how to set up your NetApp simulator in a VMware workstation environment. And now I'm aware that not everyone has the resources or the funds to be able to pay for the VMware Workstation Pro, even though you have like a trial period of 30 days. But yeah, you've got 30 days to try it out basically, and I'm not sure if that will be sufficient for people to be able to practice all that they need to practice in a lab environment because the NetApp sort of product or the NetApp product range is really wide, and also the data on top operating system is really intensive, and there are lots of stuff to learn that 30 days may not be enough. So that brings me to VirtualBox. So because not only can we set up the NetApp or the data on top simulator on VMware Workstation, which is what um, NetApp provides for us out of the box, but we can also set it up in VirtualBox. So you may ask, why not just stick to what NetApp provides and supports? For one, VMware Workstation, as mentioned, is not free, so you have to pay for it. VirtualBox, on the other hand, it's free. So all you need to do to use VirtualBox is um, go to the internet and just search for VirtualBox download and download the latest version of VirtualBox for free. And um, after downloading it, you install it. It's a simple installation. You just basically have to follow the wizard. Lots of tutorials on YouTube on that already. And then usually the very next thing that I like doing in lab environment is to set up my network. I showed you when I was talking about setting the simulator up in VMware Workstation. Um, I already showed you like what I like doing, which is basically I like mapping out what my network will be like at the very beginning of the lab before I even start at all. And basically, you have to transfer whatever you've planned and written down, something similar to this. It doesn't have to be exactly this. You have to transfer that into your VirtualBox network environment. If you click on File and click on Preferences there, then you go on the network. You can add as many host-only adapters as you can do. So just to give you an illustration, I'll do something like go um, add an adapter. So in this sense, this adapter is standing for separate networks. So I'll say, okay, I've got one here called um, VirtualBox host-only Ethernet adapter 3. So I'll probably have something like this where I'll say VBox host-only 3 maps to my maybe my cluster network for the NetApp cluster, which we'll get into later for the cluster network, and that'll probably be an IP address range of 192.168.81.0/24. Give it the network so that you know, or I know going forward, if I double click on this, I can enable a DHCP server for it. I can change all this from that to match what I've already written down. So I change that to so I go .81.1 and then set a DHCP server for that network if I want to, and VirtualBox itself will act as the DHCP server. So I can set all that, configure what the server address is, the mask, the lower IP list address, and the upper address bound also. So then going forward, I know if I go back and I take any of my virtual machines and I create an adapter for them and I say, hey, you're connecting to adapter host only adapter 3, I know which network 3 stands for. So that's like the very first thing I like doing. So if once you make sure that you've mapped up your adapters first, then you can move on from there. So again, it's kind of like similar to what we mentioned yesterday. You have to go to NetApp's website, search on Google for NetApp downloads, look for this link that says downloads NetApp support. You have to log in. So in this case, I'll move this slightly out of the way so I can log in without being hacked. And as I mentioned yesterday, you have to make sure that you're logging in with an account that is linked to an enterprise that has an agreement with NetApp, or that has a contract with NetApp, or that has support with NetApp. Okay, so I'm logged in now. So let's go back. I'll drag this back here. So I've logged in now. Then same thing. You go on the download, go on the software, go on the on the tool chest here, you see tool chest contains downloadable tools, including Data on Tap Simulator. You can click on the link for Data on Tap Simulator. Takes you to this page. You can click on this link to get the latest version, and then you can see the latest version at the top. And as mentioned yesterday, so the same principles apply. So you can get this version for VMware Workstation, VMware Player, and VMware Fusion, this one, and this other one is for VMware ESX. So that was provided out of the box by NetApp. And then you have this license file, which again is very important. If you're going to be having a 2-node cluster, they cannot have the same serial number. Where will you get the other serial number from? You're going to get it from this file right here under vSIM licenses. Okay, so again, just click on the one for VMware Workstation to download that, and then it kicks off the download. So I already downloaded that to save time, so I'll just go under my downloads. So I downloaded it, renamed it to NetApp, and saved it here. So that's the OVA file that I downloaded. So I've just renamed it to NetApp 1. Yeah, and this one is basically an exact same copy. I've renamed it to NetApp 3. So what do you do from this point on? So now you have this file that you can import in the VMware Workstation, but now we want to use VirtualBox, not VMware Workstation. So the very first thing that we want to do is to extract this OVA file. So to do that, there's another free tool called 7-zip that you need. So just go on Google again and look for 7-zip and click on download. Download the version that fits your operating system and install it. And you can use 7-zip to unpack this OVA file. So I can go right click on it, go on the 7-zip, and then go under extract to NetApp 3. And basically just extract all the content of that OVA into a folder. And then what we'll do in a minute when this completes is we'll go into that folder and then we'll do some other extraction. So let's wait for that to complete. And there we go. So that's completed. So we have this folder now. And here in this folder, we can see all these different files. We have an OVA file. We have this MF file. Then we have these zipped files. So, and you have disk 1, disk 2, disk 3, disk 4. So what I can do is I can either select them all together and right click and go. If you have WinRAR, which you can get, I think 60 days trial, 30 days trial, just go to Google, look for WinRAR, WinRAR, and download that and just use the trial for now. Okay, so you can use WinRAR, and also you can even use 7-zip for this. I'm going to be using WinRAR. So you can right click on it and go extract to extract each archive to a separate folder. So what it's going to do is going to take each of these 4 files that are still zipped up and it's going to extract them to a separate folder. That's what I want. Or if I don't want to extract them to a separate folder, I want to extract them to this particular folder I'm in. I can right click and go extract here. So what I'll do is I'll just click extract here. So let's click on that and let's wait for the extraction to complete. And there we go, extraction complete. And if you notice, all these extractions are VMDK files. Now, VMDK files is the virtual disk format for VMware Workstation product. So, but here's the good thing is that VirtualBox also accept. If I go on the VirtualBox and I had a new virtual machine, call it anything. I go next, whatever. So I can go create a virtual hard disk now. And then you can see VirtualBox actually allows me to create all these different virtual uh, drive format. So VDI is the one for VirtualBox itself. VHD, virtual hard disk, which is the one that the old version of Hyper-V uses. Then VMDK is the one for VMware Workstation. So VirtualBox also allows VMDK. So that's why we'll be able to use that. So now we have all these different VMDK files. I don't need the zipped versions again. I can safely delete them. Yeah. And here we go. I've got my VMDKs, which are the main things that I'll be using for this. So the next thing I'll do is I'll go on the VirtualBox and I'll click on New, and I'll create a new virtual machine. Let's call it, as yesterday, let's call it NetApp 1, and select the type of BSD and select the version to be FreeBSD 64-bit. So again, name it whatever you want to name it. There's the very first NetApp node that will be in the cluster, 2-node cluster that I'll be creating in this lab environment. I've selected type BSD and version FreeBSD 64-bit. So I can click on next. Now for the memory, if you remember yesterday when we created the NetApp node, the NetApp simulator in VMware Workstation, by default it came with a configuration of a machine that has 5 gig. Now that's heavy. Now there are ways that we can manipulate and reduce the memory usage of the NetApp simulator, but we'll show that later. Now we're just concerned about getting to set it up. So in this case, I'll be selecting 7 gig. I'll just select I'll just select 7,000 meg, which is roughly over 6 gig of RAM. So and I'll click next. So remember that whenever you're doing this, you need a machine that's powerful. The machine that I'm currently using, if I go under this PC, go under the properties, you see it's a machine that has 32 gig of RAM and it's got 8 core processor. So I'm covered in that respect. Okay, so I changed the RAM to 7 gig of RAM. And now one thing that I've seen in my own testing is that sometimes if you do select the RAM to be, because I remember the first time I did it and I selected 5,000, just 5 gig of RAM, I was getting error messages. But once I increased the RAM, then it started booting up. So I think maybe it's due to the fact that virtual box uses more RAM than VMware Workstation. So I will just select 7 gig of RAM again. Let's make that 7,000 and I'll click on next. So when you get to the creation of the hard drive, just select do not create the hard disk and click on create and then click OK. So you've created an empty virtual machine, no hard drives in it. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go on the settings of the hard drive and you go on the system. Again, leave the memory as it is. I'll remove this boot order. I'll remove optical here. I'll move hard disk to the top. On the processor, I'll increase the processor to 2 processors. And then I'll go on the display. And on the display, if you want, you can increase the display RAM. I'm not interested in huge display. So I'll just leave that as it is. So here is one of the places where you do a lot of configuration. Because first thing you want to do is remove this empty CD DVD drive. So I'll click on that to remove it. Yeah, I'm sure I want to remove it. Then what I'll do now is I'll add the 4 virtual disks that we extracted earlier. And we're going to add them in the order of disk 1, disk 2, disk 3, and disk 4. Now, one thing I like doing, you don't have to do this. One thing I like doing, if I go to this folder where I've extracted those, I can just select all of them and click copy, go to the location where my VirtualBox VMs are saved. So that's on the users VirtualBox VMs, and on the NetApp one, I can just paste them here. And why I like doing, again, you don't have to. I just like renaming them so I can have some consistency across. So I'll call this NetApp 1, disk 1, and I'll do the same all across. NetApp 1, disk 2. Do the same for that. NetApp 1, disk 3, and NetApp 1, disk 4. Okay, so then let's go back. So if I go, hey, add a new disk, choose an existing disk, go to the location of my of where I've copied the VMDK files and just select disk 1 and click on open, and that's added. So then I'll click that again under the same IDE controller and add the second disk and do the same for the remaining disk. Disk 3, you have to add them in that order. If you miss that or if you get error messages, disk 4. Now, you might be tempted to think you're done now, but you're not done. Because one thing that you need is you need to add an empty floppy drive here. So if I click the plus sign here and I had a floppy controller and click plus, and then I click on the plus sign here and add a new floppy drive. It says, would you like to leave it empty or put a disk in it? I'll just click leave it empty. That's really important. Otherwise, if you after you finish like the whole process and you boot up the NetApp simulator and then you start getting error messages related to CF card, check that you have attached an empty floppy drive. It's really important to attach this empty floppy drive. Okay, so next I'll go to under storage. I'll enable, under audio, I'll disable audio. It's not needed. So network is another important place. So um, again, you just attach the adapters the way you want in your lab environment. So in this case, I can say host only adapter, and maybe adapter 1 is my management, so I can select adapter 1, whatever, and you do the same for all the adapters. I recommend enabling all the adapters because in a real life NetApp environment, you need many network adapters. And one other important thing to notice is this adapter type, because this NetApp simulator comes inbuilt with certain network adapter drivers. So the driver for this particular adapter type is not included. So the one that you want is the Intel Pro 1000 MT server 82545EM. That's important. You have to change all the network adapters that you'll be using to this particular type. So again, go back and change that to Intel Pro 1000 MT server and do the same for all the adapters that you'll be using. So do that for all of those. So you can either attach them to the networks now, or you can just leave them as they are. So in my own case, I'll just leave adapter 1 bridged, and the reason for that is so I can connect to it. And then give it an IP address, connect to it. So I'll just leave it bridged and bridged to one of my physical adapters. But again, remember all of them, the adapter types have to be this. So one other interesting thing to note about VirtualBox is, because you might be tempted to think, oh, I see another advantage for VMware here, because, okay, yeah, VirtualBox is free, VMware is paid for, but now you're limited to only 4 adapters. Well, we might be tempted to think we're limited to only 4 adapters, but we're not actually. I think you can get up to 8 virtual adapters, which should be enough. So the way to do that, if I go under where the virtual machine is stored, which is in this folder, NetApp 1, you can see my VBox file here, which is basically sort of like an XML file that defines what the virtual machine is. If I right click on that and if I open it with Notepad++, and that's what I get. So again, don't make any changes to this. I'm just showing you this so to make it clear that you can have more than 4 network adapters. So you can see here you have network. This is what defines what the network are. You have adapter slot 0, adapter slot 1, adapter slot 2, and 3, and 4. And if you see, you have 5, you have 6, you have 7. So You can go up to 8 virtual adapters in in VirtualBox. But you notice the differences between all this is that um, slot 2 is enabled. Slot 1. Okay, yeah, okay, this is disabled. But if you notice, slot 5 is disabled. Same with 6, same with 7, and even same with 4. So you only have 0 to 3. And so if you want to use more than 4 network adapters in VirtualBox, you can. Don't be tempted to believe that you can't. You can. I'll close that. And the way to do is VirtualBox comes with a command line tool called VBox Manage. So if I browse to where VirtualBox was installed, just cd program files on the Oracle and on the VirtualBox, and there's a command line tool called VBox Manage. Yep, there we go, VBox Manage, and I can use that. If I go VBox Manage, show VM info, my VM name is NetApp 1, and what that command should show me what the configuration is for this particular virtual machine. Yep, there we go. So you can see configuration of this particular virtual machine. The one I was talking about is this network adapters down here. You can see you have NIC 1 up to NIC 8, but you cannot configure NICs 5, 6, 7, 8. You cannot configure them from the GUI here. You can only configure up to adapter 4. If you want to configure adapter 5, 6, 7, 8, you have to do that using this command line to VBox Manage. And I'll put a link below that links to the documentation of VBox Manage that will show you how to do that. So just to put that in so you're aware of that. So serial ports, you can either use it if you want to. I'll just leave it disabled for now. I don't need the USB controller, so I'll leave that disabled. I don't need any share folders. And then I click OK to that. And now I've got my environment basically ready to go. So the same rules or the same principles that applied to VMware Workstation environment applies from here on going forward. The moment we start this machine, you don't want to go press enter and start boot immediately. You want to press another key apart from enter. And the reason for that is, as we mentioned yesterday, you want to change the serial number and the system ID for at least one of the nodes. Otherwise, you run into issues. There's another thing that you need to do regarding VirtualBox, which I'll show you. So I'll click on that, and I'll click on Start, and I'll be ready to press any other key apart from Enter when this starts up. So here we go, booting up. Yep, press any other key. I press the space bar, and then I come into this VLoader screen. So the very first thing I want to show you, I think I touched on it yesterday. If I go print and bootag.vm.run underscore vm tools, enter. Now that's set to true. Now first thing we want to do is disable that, because what that is setting, it's saying install VMware tools, which introduces this more drivers and all that stuff. Install VMware tools into this virtual machine. Now we're using VirtualBox. VirtualBox has its own separate guest additions, but we can't install that, so we'll be using the generic drivers. If I go on the devices here, I can insert the guest additions, but we can't do that for this one. So note that you want to disable this, and the way to disable that is you go set. I'm not sure now if it's set or set env. Let's put that set bootag.vm.run underscore VM tools, and I'll say set that to false. Okay, wrong number of arguments, so maybe I need to use set env bootag.vm.run underscore VM tools, and I'll set that to false. Yeah, there we go. So now if I print env again, print env bootag vm.run underscore VM tools. Now that's set to false. So then the other thing that we can do is we can change the serial number. If I print the existing serial number, print sys underscore serial underscore num, and you can see what the serial number is. So you don't have to do it for this one. You may do it for the second node, but make sure you do that um, for one of the nodes. I can also show the system ID. So you can go print put ag dot mvram dot sysid, and then you can see what the sysid is. So to change that, I just use, instead of printf, just set that to send env put ag dot mvram dot sysid equals to what the number is. And it's the same thing for the serial number. Set env space sys underscore serial underscore num equals to the serial number you're changing it to. And so once you're done with that, the next thing that you need to do is you've made that changes, all you have to do is press boot, and then it begins to boot up the data on tap operating system. Now you get this option to press Ctrl C. You want to press Ctrl C. The reason for that is, again, as we did in the VMware Workstation demo, is that you want to wipe the configuration completely and then initialize all the disks, which just means you zero all the disks. Again, we'll explain all that when we start talking about the theory. So I think I may pause this recording, and then when the boot menu shows up, I'll come back. Oh, that didn't take long. Okay. So here we are, we have the boot menu here. So what we're looking for is boot menu number 4. So you only do this the very first time after starting that. You've made your changes, you've disabled VMware tools running, you've changed the serial number for one of the nodes. I press number 4 and it asks me certain questions. Are you sure you want to wipe out the disk and wipe out the configuration? I'll answer yes to that when it comes up. Yep. 0 days reset config install a new file system. Yep, that's what I want. Y for yes. This will erase all the data on the disk. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. And then it's going to reboot. And then once it comes back, it's going to wipe all the configuration and zero all the disks. And I'll tell you why it's doing all that. Another reason why I personally prefer to use VirtualBox for my NetApp lab than using VMware Workstation. And it's a really, really good reason. So apart from it free, I don't have to pay for it. One of the other good reasons is VirtualBox has such a good integration with other tools that I use for labbing. So one of such tools is this tool right here called GNS3. For those that are into Cisco or networking, you know what GNS3 is. So because it allows me to integrate standard networking in my NetApp lab or in my ESX lab, and it's really, really solid. I will show you what I mean. So what that means is you can have GNS3 with all these virtual routers and switches that are running the real Cisco operating system, and you can integrate that with VirtualBox into with things like this NetApp simulator, and you can practice things like VLAN usage and lots of other networking technologies. And because again, NetApp doesn't stand in abstraction; it's in relationship with like many other protocols and many other technologies in your infrastructure and in your data center. You know, it's connecting to your Linux servers, SQL machines with iSCSI protocols or NFS or CIFS, and it's integrating across the board. It's integrating with a lot of networking technologies, and this it just gives me like actually why it's doing that. um, bring this one up and start my JNS3 VM, show you some of what I mean. Because these two so much integrate well with VirtualBox, this JNS3 too. And that is one of the reasons why I prefer using VirtualBox uh, in my own lab than JNS3. So okay, my JNS3 VM is started. I'll call this NetApp 2 lab. Okay, and I can go preferences there, VirtualBox VM. These are the old ones that I had, and then I can delete all these and delete the second one. And if I want, I can go new. It searches my virtual infrastructure and looks for any VMs that exist. And I can select any VMs that exist here and basically link these into my infrastructure or into my lab. So this view Cisco routers and switches, running the view Cisco IOS, and I can put the servers here, and I can link them up here and configure all sorts of VLAN technologies and networking technologies between all these devices, which is something I can do with NetApp also now. So that's one of the reasons why I prefer that. So I hope that's been really helpful to you. If you okay, yeah, that was quick also. It finished doing the whole installation. Hey, do I want to enable auto support? Yeah, no problems. Enter the node management interface port. I can enter again E0A, B, C, D. That's how they go. So if I enter E0A, hopefully it will allow me to give it an IP address, give it a subnet mask, and then I can connect into it. An IP address, I'll say 192.168.2.85. Let's put that. And netmask 255.255.255.0. Prompt me for the default gateway. I enter the default gateway. Yeah, failed to add that. So you may experience issues like this. So I'll just use the default one that is asking me to use, the E0C. Give it that same IP address. Give it that 192.168.2.253, my gateway. And then it sets that up. So but I'll need to make a change to settings on the network. This adapter, which should be E0C. I'll just link that up with my if I do ping 192.168.2.85, or I actually just set all of them. I'll just go, hey, whole network, you're breached. That's one other thing. So if I go, okay, there's one other thing also. So I want to go allow all, set that to allow all to. Because I'm not sure exactly if it's using, so breached adapter. Actually, I'll just leave them to that one. I'll leave this one to this one also. I'll leave this one to this one also. And I'll leave this one to bridge adapter also. And say allow all, allow all. And click OK to that. So yeah, and there you go. I can log into that. So let's log into that. I can do something like network. I'll just go network ports show. That shows me all the network ports that I have. I can go network interface show also. And that's empty, so that means it's not configured any adapter and stuff like that. But we'll get into where we configure the networking. But again, that's just the beginning of how to set it up in VirtualBox environment. You have that running. We'll talk about the networking side later and how to get that working properly. So I hope that's been helpful to you. If you have any questions, feel free to just drop a message uh, down below in the description. We have a group where we'll start doing hangouts on Google Plus relating to uh, NetApp studies. If you go on the Google Plus on the communities, and there's this group here called uh, NetApp NCSA and NCDA study group. So if you're interested in doing some NetApp studies, just join the group. It's all nice and fun. Get related with other professionals. So thanks very much for watching. Sorry for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.